willing to join us. There we go. Cool. So, welcome back to Forestry 423, Environmental Interpretation. I hope you're alive, alert, awake, enthusiastic. Rather won't stay though. I'm just kidding. So, welcome back. We were just talking about on Monday, our first day of the class. We went through the syllabus. We set up some parameters for the field trip on Mammoth Cave in March. And we kind of got around to the first couple of words, our first exercise, right at the tail end of class, on writing a couple of things down in a list that's personal to you of things that you're passionate about, that you feel strongly about, that you tend to order your discretionary time or money or attention or some combination of those three, and you find yourself just kind of sitting and marinating or cooking on those a lot because they're important to you. And the message right at the end of class, we were a couple of minutes over time, so I want to go back to this and kind of pick it up right there. The message was, man, if this stuff is really important to me, it's probably important to somebody else out there. Now, maybe not the specific thing that I'm interested in, but like the reason behind it. The reason underneath it, the bigger, broader, more fundamental idea that my particular thing that I get excited about is really wrapped around. And the way I get excited about it is just an entry point to the deeper, more fundamental, more universal thing. And in the professional practice of interpretation, for our purposes this semester, that deeper, more crucial, more recognizable to everybody else, whether or not they're into the same like super intense hobby that you're into, but the reason why you enjoy that hobby maybe is common to pretty much everybody. And those universal things are what we call themes. So go ahead and pull out that paper list around Monday out of your notes. So what we're going to do for today is try and kind of short circuit some of the lecture stuff with the theme building exercise or 3. Okay? So hopefully everybody still got your list. If you don't, if it got wadded up and is crumbled at the bottom of your book bag or served as your rolling paper on Monday at 2:15 or whatever, that's fine. Go ahead and recreate at least a couple entries off of that list so you have something to work with again today. As you recall, the assignment in the last minutes of Monday's class was put together a list of 7 or more. Most of us can write a whole lot more than 7 things that are really inescapably important to you personally. We had a lot of examples. Certain people might be very important to you. Maybe a beloved pet. Maybe a particular place. For me, one of the places that's really significant in my life that is more than just a place on the map for me is Acadia National Park. I did a bunch of work over the years, both as a researcher and as a professor. My wife and I fell in love there. The lobster's really good there if you're into seafood. It's a beautiful, amazing, exceptional place. There's no other island on the face of the planet that is exactly like Acadia National Park. And that means something to me. Like, if I found out that there was something threatening Acadia National Park, then I'd get pretty tight about that, right? I don't want bad things to happen to things that I care about, to places or people, or even ideas that I care about. So on your list, you might have any of a number of different nouns. People, places, things to do, like hobbies. You're really passionate about whatever. We talked about foraging last class session. Okay? Another entry on that list of nouns that's very important for a lot of people is religion. faith, spirituality. Those are not the same thing. They're adjacent to each other, right? And a lot of people have ascribed a lot of importance to any or all of those things for probably as long as there have been humans. I don't know. I wasn't a person 300,000 years ago when modern humans first arrived, depending on your theology. Maybe it was 46,000 years ago. I don't know. Anyway, the whole point here is all of us have a pretty big list, whether or not we've really thought about it before, of stuff that you would be willing to sacrifice for on behalf of. Things that are important to you to see that they remain healthy, whole, integral, that they are protected, that they are cared for, that they are provided for, right? People, places, things to do, concepts, anything that's a noun could be on that list. All right. Now, we just said a couple of minutes ago that your particular window onto that thing is pretty subjective to you. So let's tack on to this list for each of those 7 or more things on your personal list. And you're not going to be asked to share this list, right? This is a very personal thing. This is a really personal thing. I'm not going to ask you to drag it out in front of everybody and put you on the spot, okay? But next to each one of those 7 or more things, write a colon, 2 little dots. And then start a second column to the right of your list. That's all right. You don't need much space for this. If you're on a little notepad, you do you, boo. All right. On our new right-hand column, for each of these 7 or more things, I want you to take a couple of minutes and answer the question, why? Why is Acadian National Park so important to me that I would sell my house, sell my car, drag my wife and my dogs kicking and screaming, and we'd go live by Acadia so we could enjoy the sunrise and the sunset there every day? Why would I do that? Why is it important to me? Why do I have so much fun foraging in the forest? It is fun, but why? Okay. And what this why question is going to help us connect the dots on is beyond the specific handle by which I grip this noun, by which I interface with this thing that I care about. What's more universal? What's more fundamental? What's probably more shared across lots of or even all people? If I'm just absolutely crazy about rock climbing, why am I crazy about rock climbing? Why do I spend a ton of money that maybe I don't even have, like I put it on that plastic, to have an awesome try-hard, like sweaty try-hard level of gear, so I am ready to go when the climbing club takes a couple of university vans and we trundle our way out west of Red Rocks country. We spend 10 days over spring break just sending it. Wall Street, outside of Canyonlands, on BLM land. Why do I want to do that? We're going to spend a little bit of time on this. I'm just going to keep talking to give you a little bit of space to reflect and think a little bit more about it. We're going to do this, and we're going to give it some time, our precious time in class together, because this is a super important question. And in a lot of our forestry classes, we tend not to give a whole lot of time to really important questions. We're trying to answer a lot of technical questions through research, through your textbooks, which collect a lot of research and format it in a way hopefully that is intelligible to you as a budding professional. But we tend not to spend a lot of time in class together on why is it important. So we're going to have a little extra time here because our why answering muscle is not as well developed as our what answering muscle. Our facts and figures, flow charts and diagrams muscle is pretty good by the time you're a senior here in forestry. Maybe it's feeling a little bit overdeveloped. Okay? If you're sick of memorizing stuff and regurgitating it for quizzes and tests, this is the opposite of that. We are looking at the fact of what you are interested in and interpreting first to ourselves and then using this as an entry point for the rest of the semester to other people. Why are certain things important? Keep on writing. This is not an essay test. It's not a test at all. I'm not going to see any of your answers on your list of what is important to you. This is a reflective assignment or exercise. Okay? Some of these you might be able to answer in a couple of words. When something helps define your sense of who you are, it doesn't require an essay. Just a couple of words. Okay? Identify why or what about that thing that you listed. What about it makes it so important? Are cooking and going through. So maybe half are satisfied with their answers. Excellent. So far, where I'm going with this is that we're going to expand out this list of things beyond what is important and front and center for you personally. There are going to be some topics that seem pretty important to a lot of people more broadly, at least across, say, American society as just one totally arbitrary boundary around which to draw the discussion. Okay? And the heart and soul of interpretation, like we were saying on Monday, is getting beyond facts and factoids, beyond the Linnaean, Latin, and Greek derived binary names for all the different tree species you found, is why do we care about post oak? Why do we care about pin oak? Why do we care about oaks? Why do we care about trees? Why do we care about forest ecosystems? Why do we care about ecosystems? Okay? Because we're putting people's lives in danger to manage forest fires right now, right? We are putting the lives of people who don't have a lot of choice and control over their own lives, like prisoners, in harm's way to do wildland firefighting work right now in California. So we better have a pretty darn good idea of why we are doing that. People's lives are literally in the balance. To say nothing of all the people whose houses are busy burning down over the last week and so forth, right? Has anybody heard the updated count on how many homes have been destroyed? It's up over 11,000 now. That's as of a day or two ago. It's a lot, right? A moment like this changes the trajectory of the family's life. So we want to have a pretty good sense of why we are putting people in harm's way to deal with it. Because if we don't ask the why question, nothing's ever going to get better. We're going to keep on doing the same stuff, the same way, and there are some people who disagree with how CAL FIRE and the United States Forest Service have managed wildland fire in California, for example, over the past century, and think that we should ask the why question more, because maybe not all of these homes had to have burned down. And maybe some of them are just trying to because they're built in fire-adapted ecosystems, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, all this to say, I don't even know how many times I've repeated this word already in this class session, we're getting at the why. So professional environmental interpretation as a career arc is wholly ate up with getting at the why question, getting us past the I learned how to memorize facts in school to the place of, okay, now I understand some things that get at the why around talking about wildland fire as a topic. Dry, boring, sterile, but full of consequences now. So fire in California is a now. Maybe wildland fire management is on your list of things that you're passionate about. I want to be a smoke jumper. I want to be a hotshot. I want to work on a Type 3 engine crew, whatever, right? Maybe that's pretty important to you, and the why is I want to get paid, I want to get paid overtime, and I want to get hazard pay. So we can exhibit Pimp My Ride 2007 meme quality yo dog. I heard you want to make money, so you can make money while you're making money, getting paid triple time on a wildland fire crew. That's a valid why. Everybody's got to eat, right? You got to earn some money. So that's okay. We're going to hold some space for folks who have, I want to be able to maybe get a house someday. It's getting harder and harder, and so on and so forth. And all of the other reasons. I want to get into fire because it's important for me to know that when that emergency call goes out, somebody's at the other end of that line saying, we're on the way. It's important to me to know that. It's personally important to me because I appreciate all the Ameren and non-Illinois people who trucked in from places as far away as Florida to help us get over this ice storm that we had last week. My power was out for a total of 20, 25 hours in teens and 20s temperatures, right? That could have destroyed my house. Bursting pipes and water damage, all that stuff, right? It was important for me that somebody was on the other end of the line. I got on Ameren's website and was like, hey, I just watched a tree fall on my high voltage line. Could somebody do something about that? And they're like, We got you, fam. They didn't actually say that, but I knew they were thinking and feeling it in their hearts deeply. Right? So there are lots of whys for every noun, for every topic. Environmental interpretation is about getting to the why, or the whys plural, attached with each topic, so we can have an interesting conversation together. And it's a conversation. It's not a textbook. It's not a class lecture. It's a conversation. It's a connection. It's getting past the professor stands up in front of the class and talks at you, and you nod and look like you're writing something down while you're playing Farmville. I don't do this Farmville anymore, but you get the idea, right? It's actually building some connection. Okay? So if we're gonna chart this out, we're going to go from topic, noun, phrase, a thing, a place, a person. We're going to ask the why question. Why is this important? How is this important to people historically? How is it important to people now? How is it important to you versus me, somebody in a position of authority with you or over you, telling you how it's important to you, textbook style, but we are asking why. And that's going to bring us to a theme. And we're going to use the theme like a tool to interface with people, our publics, our people on our guided hike, or our cave tour, and our field trip, or whatever the modality, just the way that we're interacting with each other, interfacing. We're going to get to connection, inspiration, change, understanding, and then we're going to wrap all the way back to step 0. Show of hands, how many of you guys have had the word passion used in your forestry classes yet? Yeah, me either, right? That's where we're going. That's where interpretation is built to go. So, let's talk about how to do that. Anybody still writing? Okay, nice work, y'all. We're 25 minutes into this class, and you've just answered some very important questions for yourself, or started to answer them, right? This is an ongoing conversation inside your head and your heart for the rest of your life, I hope. Okay? Never stop. Let's talk about how to get from, in a technical, professional way, from topics. You and I and everybody else knows something, a little bit, a lot, maybe a whole lot, about trees. But a lot of us haven't thought a whole lot about why we care about trees beyond the surface. Well, if we cut down all the trees, then we don't have any water, we don't have any oxygen, we don't have any soil, we don't have any board feet of timber, we don't have any... Right. Okay? Like everybody's kind of got that so far. But there's a whole lot more that we can talk about using trees as an entry point, using just the noun phrase of the topic of trees as a way to get to things like connecting with the people that you're leading on a hike, and maybe inspiring somebody on that hike to start working in forestry, or at least to be more understanding of, curious about, exploring in the forested environments around where they live, wherever they live, okay? We're understanding a lot more about the forest and what's going on in it when folks are out on the Shawnee. Instead of just driving around at kind of a surfacey level and monkey see, monkey do, like pointing out the window and going, look at all the pretty colors during leaf fall season here on the Shawnee. This is so pretty. okay, let's go back to hanger or tracks or PKs and kill all the brain cells we just fired up. Right? Like, yeah, we can do that, that's fine, that's valid, but maybe we can inspire people to a lot more than just drinking the brain away. Okay? Cool. So, we've all got topics. You got a list of them. Topics by themselves are just nouns. They are sterile, or boring, or forgettable. This is Tilden's second law of interpretation. Don't worry about what those 6 are yet. We'll get to those. What we're going to do is take anything off of your list or a more broad list of forestry-associated topics. And we're going to transform it into a theme, which is going to be all of the things on this bulleted list for our purposes this semester. For this semester, we're going to treat these 7 things as rules. Once you're a professional, making a paycheck doing environmental interpretation or historic or cultural interpretation, you are free to bend and even break these rules. Once you know why, here it is again, why you are breaking it. That's what a professional is trained to do. To use this as a framework or a scaffold to get not just off the ground with a topic, but to really soar with it and do things that nobody else has ever done with that topic by breaking some rules when you need to. All right, so rule number 1. Your theme is going to be a sentence, not a phrase. And a full sentence has a bunch of stuff, like a capitalized first letter, and punctuation at the end, and a subject, and a predicate. A predicate is a fancy word for the action of the sentence, the stuff associated with the verb in the sentence. So, the subject of your sentence is going to be a single subject. We're not going to ram a whole bunch of stuff into one sentence. It's going to be just one sentence. Okay? So, one subject. Write these 7 things down. One subject in your theme sentence. Your subject is your topic. And the predicate answers the why question about the topic. Okay? The verb part of your theme sentence is going to be an active verb. Now, for those of you whom the education system has failed over the years, if you're not sure what an active versus a passive verb is, I got you, fam. All right? It is any verb that doesn't use any of the 22 passive voice verbs, the to be verbs. All right, so we'll go through that list here in a bit, but don't worry about it right now. So, a single subject, an active verb attached to that subject. That subject is doing something, or something is being done to that subject. In one sentence, we're going to tell a complete story. There's a focus of the story, the subject of the story, and then something happens. It's the predicate. Okay? Third rule for this class about themes. You're going to punctuate this sentence. It's going to have a period at the end, or a question mark, or an exclamation point, if that's appropriate. And question marks and exclamation points are a lot more interesting than periods because I looked through a textbook and I got a lot of periods and not a lot of exclamation points, and that's boring. So we're not going to do that. Bonus points, or maybe take about 10% off the top they're squirrely in if you use an interrobang. An interrobang is a formal punctuation mark composed of an exclamation point and a question mark. That's how we do. But use that one sparingly, right? Too much spice overloads the food. Fourth rule for this class. Should you use figurative language techniques like rhetorical questions? We'll go through almost a dozen different kinds of questions to ask of people when you are leading them through interpretation. And we'll go through a couple of dozen other figurative language techniques using non-literal communication. XYZ species of pine tree has 5 needles per, is it petiole or fascicle? Fascicle? Fascicle is a bundle of needles? Right. All right, mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Good. There's a lot of literal, just dry facts about trees that nobody cares about. We don't feel anything about them because it's just fact, right? Who cares? Okay? But when we bring the entire human brain to bear, using figurative, using non-literal communication techniques like metaphor, analogy, simile, hyperbole, personification, anthropomorphization, exaggeration, humor, not sarcasm, but irony might be okay. There are a couple of dozen different ways we can spice up the conversation using figurative language techniques. We'll spend a couple of weeks on those. Okay? Fifth, attributional language. We're going to express this sentence in clear, explicit, and specific relationship to the person who's hearing it or reading it. Attributional language requires the use of words like pronouns. You, I, we, us, our, their, THIR, and so forth. Okay? In this one sentence, we're going to establish a subject, some kind of trajectory, arc, procedure, mechanism, process, history, story about that subject, the predicate, the verb, an active verb. And we're going to work in some, at least one, bit of attributional language so that the person reading this has any sense of, what does this matter to me? How does this relate to me? Where do I exist in relationship to what this person, with this interpretive sign, this wayside, this exhibit, this pamphlet, this map, where am I on it? Where am I in it? Or is this just some conceptually totally divorced, separate other thing? Othering is a powerful negative way to interface with somebody. We're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to make it absolutely baked into the first sentence that anybody hears about your or reads about your interp. They know exactly where they stand in relation to it from word one. Expressed in relation to the visitor everywhere at all times in all the ways that we can. Okay? That is Freeman Tilden's first law of environmental interpretation. And number one is probably pretty important. Seventh and final. Freeman Tilden said in his fourth principle that environmental, historic, cultural interpretation is by its very nature and design. This doesn't happen on accident. You bake it in. It provokes. It demands some kind of a response. Okay? So when I'm telling you that there are 5 needles per fascicle on such and such species of pine, right? That doesn't stir anything in you. It doesn't stir anything positive, doesn't stir anything negative. It's just a fact, and we hope it's true, right? But interpretation, because we are going for interface, because we're going for connection, for inspiration, for driving towards change and understanding and giving somebody not just permission to be passionate about something that is worth being passionate about, but hand out helping them get there. We are provoking some kind of response. Usually it's a positive response, a euphoric response in some way. Not like, dude, I'm tripping balls on ecstasy right now, euphoric, but wow, this is expanding, this is moving out my horizons just a little bit from where I thought they were. That is a positive kind of provocation. Now, there might be a negative provocation. We might make somebody a little bit concerned. But concern isn't the same thing as panic. It's not the same thing as depression or living in fear or anything like that, right? A healthy concern drives a lot of good. That's where we're trying to get. Okay? So, single and clear subject. Clear, active, verb, and predicate of the sentence. Clear and explicit punctuation. Punctuation, for some reason, I guess because we all just mostly text by now, and there's a lot of not punctuation in text, a lot less than in other kinds of writing. This is the one that tends to trip people up a lot. We're going to use figurative, non-literal language communication techniques. Don't worry if you don't know what those are yet. We'll take you through them. You already use a whole bunch of them anyway, just without necessarily knowing the label for it. We're going to use attributional language like you, me, we, us, our, their. We're going to express everything in terms of its relationship to the visitor, not just as a dry factoid in isolation. A factoid is a fact without context, for those of you curious about clear and formal definitions. And finally, if we're not provoking some kind of a response in our visitors, then we have. If we're just relaying information, then we have failed as interpreters. We might still be effective communicators, educators, all that stuff, but if people aren't responding in some way, whether or not it's the way that you hoped or wanted or expected, if nobody's responding at all, if they just sort of go, okay, and then on to their next thing, then we've been busy, but we haven't been interpreting. All right? Cool. Any questions about this stuff so far? This stuff, I'm going super slow through it because this is so fundamentally important. And there's never going to be a day in this class where we're not calling back to, at least implicitly, at least one of these 7 rules. Any questions about this? All right, cool. Freeman Tilden, I want to read this out for you because this is black text on a dark blue arrow, which is terrible ergonomics, and I should feel bad because I'm a bad person. Freeman Tilden wrote, "The visitor's chief interest is in whatever touches his or her or their personality, experiences, and his or their ideals." Okay? So if I'm talking about pine trees and I'm relaying a bunch of facts that I learned in my tree ID class about pine trees, who cares? Who cares? Any questions? All right, let's take a quick break. Go ahead and flip over or put away that list of things that you are deeply passionate about. So that you have privacy and confidentiality. Ready, stand up if you're feeling able, and stretch your legs. We'll get our bodies moving just a little bit here. Awesome. Environmental interpretation is a profoundly somatic thing. What that means is there is a mind-body connection going on with this. So there is a reason I am walking around this class as I talk. Makes anything more active than just you sitting, me standing, right? So we're going to be moving around a lot in this class. What I'm going to need from you for most days of this class is I need you to come with a good, solid, non-high sugar breakfast. You got to eat right for this class, okay? Maybe a good high-protein lunch if you are in the habit of eating lunch, 11, 12, the first half of the day instead of a late lunch kind of person. Or at least some kind of a snack before class. Not a heavy, big, greasy meal like a pizza right before class. Okay? I'm not going to require you to do anything in this class, but I would love for you to bring a water bottle. Okay? If you are consuming around 70 ounces of water or more, the research shows that you'll be able to speak a lot better for many more years without doing damage to your vocal flaps than otherwise. Interpretation is fundamentally about connection. In order to connect, we have to communicate. In order to communicate without blowing out things like our vocal apparatus or our cardiovascular systems or whatever, we have to manage our physical apparatus as well as training up in the ideals and the principles of it. Okay? Cool. So, everybody more or less standing up? If you're not yet standing up, go ahead and stand up. Okay? let's practice how to stand. I mean, we're all havers of standing posture, right? We're appreciators of standing posture. When we are doing in-person interpretation, I want you to do a couple of things. And I want you to refrain from doing a couple of specific things. First, feet. Shoulder width apart. When your feet are right next to each other, like your balls of your feet are touching, you have a relatively less stable stance, and your body will tend to, we are homeostatic, we are trying to remain balanced in all things, temperature, posture, etc. But if your feet aren't shoulder width apart, you are less stable, obviously, right? You have a narrower base foundation with which to stand on. If your knees are locked, fully extended, unlock your knees. Does anybody know why you never, ever, ever lock your knees when you're interacting with people in public, especially professionally? Anybody know why you never lock your knees?
Because of a blowout.
It causes a ton of additional strain on your cardiovascular system, and you can faint. So this happens a lot. We lose just enough blood pressure in cardiovascular system up to the brain. I would just black out for a minute and faint, and somebody hits their heads, you hit your head, and that might be a life-changing injury, right? Cranial injury is no joke. So, feet shoulder width apart, toes either parallel or slightly spread out wider than parallel. Knees not locked, not ever locked, okay? Now, we don't want to make the mistake of going too far the other direction. Don't like send a message that you're about to drop into a three-point stance and like tackle somebody, right? Just stand, feet shoulder width apart, knees not locked. What do we do with our hands when we are interpreting? Not in your pockets. What is this? If my hands are shoved deep down into my jeans pockets, what does this communicate to you non-verbally about me, or how I think or feel about you?
You don't give a poop.
I don't give a poop, or
You're a threat.
I see you as a threat and I'm nervous. I'm hiding my hands. Okay? Cool. What do hands behind your back, hidden behind your back, what does that communicate to your visitors?
That you could be a threat because they can't see your hands.
I could be a threat. Or I'm not being fully honest with you. I am physically and literally hiding something from you. Okay? These are called micro-expressions, and organizations like the Federal Bureau of Investigations use them to understand and profile hostage takers, for example. Okay? There's a lot of science behind this. Your face is continuously cycling through micro-expressions of a few milliseconds each that, filmed with a high-speed camera, basically let people read your thoughts. Crazy, isn't it? Crazy. All right. So, hands not in pockets. Hands not hiding behind your back. How about this? Hands clasped in front of your area. What does that communicate to you?
Protection.
That's right. I'm not feeling real safe around you. And so I'm going to protect what is important to me. Whether or not you're consciously thinking that, that is what the nonverbal message to your participants is. I'm worried about you just lashing out, right? Okay. My hands are like this. What is that communicating to you?
Hostage.
I did way too many bumps of booger sugar, right? This is too much. This is, as the youth might say, extra, but not in a good way, like the bad extra, right? So, hands between the tops of your hip bones, right? You can feel that sort of ridge at the outside edge of your hips, not your waist, but your hips. Hands above that, not clasped down below, not hidden behind, and not above your collarbone. When your hands are not above your collarbone, that's going to help you not have to worry about doing the next thing that we don't want to do. That is, never touch your throat or your face. Why would you not want to touch your throat or your face if you're talking with people in a professional, in this case, environmental interpretation context? Why would that be important?
You're blocking what you're trying to convey.
So if I'm standing and talking with you like this, and I'm leading the discussion, what does this look like to you?
You're nervous.
Nervous, yeah. Now, friends, it's okay to be nervous, public speaking. But we don't want to send people the message that our leader is nervous. Because that makes me wonder, well, if they're nervous, should I be nervous about something? What am I not seeing? And now I'm not thinking about what we're here to do. I'm thinking about friends. Why would I want to touch my face constantly while I'm leading an interpretive experience?
It's distracting.
Yeah. It's not adding to the conversation, it's taking away from it. The conversation, the interaction, the connection is now less than what it could be solely because I'm drawing your attention away. The interpreter is never the point of the talk. People aren't there to see you. We're not going to Mammoth Cave. I mean, we are going to Mammoth Cave as a class to see the interpreters and like get in their heads and see why they're doing what they're doing and how good they are and why they do this instead of that when they could have done this, but they definitely went hard on that, right? We're doing that as a professional practice to kind of diagnose what the state of the art is. Most people are not, right? We don't go to a national park to meet Ranger Rick or Ranger Pressure or whatever. We are going to the national park to see this beautiful place. And if somebody is there to help me understand and access and connect with it, that's awesome. But even then, I didn't come for that person. Like, I didn't spend a couple $1,000 on plane tickets, and hotel rooms, and super overpriced food, all this stuff. None of that, right? So, all of these things, if we shoulder width apart, knees slightly bent, hands between hips and collarbones, enough but not too much eye contact. We'll go through sort of the rest of the standing and interacting protocol here in a sec. None of that is to capture focus. We're going to put focus on yourself. Especially not to put focus on yourself in a negative hands for hands. But, make sense? Alright, cool. So, moving on. Up the body. I want you to have your water bottle if you're able to put your hands on one and so forth. Recommend a steel body or aluminum bottle instead of plastic. Right? You know a thing or two about plastic linings and microplastics and so forth. We're running a grand experiment on the human race with microplastics and nanoplastics penetration into brain tissue, for example. It's all very exciting. We don't know how it's going to turn out. Stay tuned. But moving up from the collarbones, we want to have access to water all day long. How many ounces or more? 70. All right. About how many quarts or liters is 70 ounces? 2.5. About 2.5. Yeah. All right. A gallon is 128 ounces. 1 quart is 32 ounces. So 64 ounces is 2 quarts. Does this mean you're going to be going to the bathroom a lot more than most of us do? Yes. Is this specifically and directly responsible for you not having to lose your job as an interpreter because you've harmed, physically and permanently damaged your vocal cords, your flaps? Yes. Okay? I'm really serious about enough water. So, for this class, because we're going to play like we practice, if you need to head out of this class in the middle of a staffed exercise or a quiz or something, not the way a lot of quizzes in this class, but if you ever need to go to the bathroom, you go to the bathroom. Like, not right there, but like go to the bathroom or like run off into the woods and, join the forest hydrology in the area. Okay? Cool. This is really important. I'm not just saying, hey, haha, let's do this. It's like, no, you need to do this, right? My sister is a speech language pathologist. My mother-in-law is a PhD level clinical speech and language pathologist. And if there is one life hack to keep yourself functional, to keep your brain working, because it is majority water mass as well, is drink enough water. 70 ounces plus, right? More like 100 ounces is a good, proper target. Around 3 quarts a day. That's the minimum. If you do more, great. I'm not gonna hurt anything. Good deal. Moving up from the throat, the voice box, the pharynx, your face is wonderful. I get to enjoy y'all's faces in this class. And we're gonna train a little bit on how to use our faces like a tool, just like everything else in this class. So, in particular, we want to focus on 2 things. What is your face's default general setting? I have, or I am possessed of, sort of the tired old white person version of RBF. Right? Resting bro face. That is, when I get tired, I frown, and I get that little crease right here, and I literally get the question, hey, are you okay? Or, is everything all right? Or, man, who shit in your Wheaties today, right? When I get tired, I frown. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I need to know that. Because if I'm working professionally as an interpreter, like, I'm gonna get tired sometimes. Like, I'm not gonna sleep well every single night. I'm gonna miss my alarm every once in a while. I'm not gonna be feeling 100%. But I still gotta stand up and deliver and so forth. So, when I am not feeling at 100%, as you get out of your 20s, there will be occasional days when you're not feeling like you're at 100%. Maybe you're already there. I don't know. It's important for you to understand what your default setting is, your resting fill in the blank face. Okay, so for me, I know that I need to pay attention to raising and separating my eyebrows just a little bit so that I'm not sending an unspoken message of, hey, you guys are my guests, my visitors, my participants, my tour walkers in the cave, my hikers with me on this guided hike. I need to not be sending you the false signal that I'm angry with you, or that I'm angry in general and about to shoot up the visitor center or whatever. Like, I don't want to set people ill at ease because I have RPM. So, whatever your thing is, and you may not have anything. Maybe you are young and beautiful and invincible, and that's great. But maybe you're like me, or maybe you will become like me, right? You just want to keep an eye on, check in with, continuously, almost minute to minute, while you are in front of and working with people. What nonverbal messages am I giving with that full body posture, and then also with our expressions? So with that, we're going to choose to smile a little bit. Not like weird and large, too many teeth, Attack on Titan like, but like, I'm happy to see you. Like, you are giving me and us the precious gift of your time and presence on this hike. Or in this class today, right? You could be anywhere in the world right now and you choose to be right here doing this. That's a gift to me, to your fellow classmates, to enable them to learn alongside you, right? And I'm grateful for that. So what I'm going to do in response, both as your professor, but also modeling the behaviors of a skilled and professional interpreter, is I'm going to leaven my expression with a smile a little bit. Never where it's inappropriate, never to an inappropriate or strange or awkward degree. But I'm going to put a little bit of smile into my face and also into my voice. Because we form words with the physical apparatus of the resonance chamber of your throat, soft palate, mouth, and lower face, the maxillofacial area is here. If you speak while smiling, you physically and literally sound different than you do otherwise. Have you guys ever been watching Hulu, or Netflix, or HBO Max, Max, whatever it is now, or Disney Plus, whatever, and a commercial comes on and there's like some voiceover, and it's just somebody who sounds like they are way too happy to be talking about weight loss medicine or, you know, whatever it is. But you can hear the smile in that voice actor's voice. You've all heard this, whether or not you've thought much about it. So, the person is physically smiling in order to impart that quality to their speech. The audio, the sound, the actual physical sound wave of speech is shaped differently when you are smiling just a little bit, and so forth. We're also going to work positive emotional markers into conversation. If I'm making professional, ethical, appropriate or appropriate, and safe for my participant jokes, man, that's a lot. Show of hands. How many of you guys and gals have ever had a professor who just kind of didn't want to be there? Like they're teaching the class because they got to teach the class. Yeah, me too. How many of you guys were excited about having that professor? That's weird. Because hopefully almost any professor is going to be teaching the same stuff, right? It's the same textbook with a jerk professor and like a professor with the heart of a mentor who's there to teach you, to lift you up, to bring you forward, to help you launch your career.
Not always, but.
Not always. But the textbook is going to be about the same. The information, the content's about the same between those two. But there's something different about somebody who cares about you and your success, who wants to be there and wants you to be there and wants that time and space to be valuable, to be irreplaceable for you as you start your career. Okay? So we're going to do that in this class because that's the kind of connection that works. Show of hands, this is probably, unfortunately, this is a genuine problem. How many of you guys have had a professor who's the opposite of that professor, just kind of phoning it in? Who's there because they're there to mentor you. They're there to pull alongside you and be like, hey, by the time you're done with me, I'm going to get you into an amazing job. I'm going to write you a 5-page long recommendation letter filled with specifics because I care about your success. How many of you guys have had a professor like that? Okay, almost as many. That's good. But that's also scary to me that it's not more than the number of students who've had a professor who's just there to cash the check. Right? That's awful. Okay, so if this is where we're getting to, we're going to use everything from our posture of our feet on up to the expression of our faces and the quality of our voices and so forth to get to a place of connection. And these particular techniques will help you do that in a day in, day out, 8-hour work day kind of a way. All right. Next. Let's run a little experiment. Find a partner. So everybody pair up. And once you find a partner, we're going to run a little trial. One person to the other, and then we'll switch roles. Everybody partner up to the other. Okay, I have 5 A's that I can give out in this class, and the last 5 people stand on here. All right, we also have 2 A's, right? So, instead of that, I want you to sit or stand and face your partner. And suppose you use your smartphone or smartwatch timer for this. You can just sort of mentally count it off. I want you to prepare you to pick one person to look at the other person in the eyes and not look away. Just visual expression. And the person who is being looked at, I want you to start counting the number of seconds when the person looking at you starts looking at you. And I want you to stop counting when it starts to feel weird. So, how many seconds is about the right number of seconds to look at somebody before they make it weird? Alright? This is the kind of experiment. Alright, so, on the count of 3, so everybody got one person to be the looker and then the looked at.
We actually.
Alright? On the count of 3, we'll all start together. You don't have to try to make the person laugh or anything, just look at them. Alright? And if you're the lookie, just count the number of seconds before you wish we were doing anything but this. Alright? Yep. What's up? No, just the person who's being looked at. You have to look back. So you're both making eye contact. But the one person is just looking, and the other person is just being looked at. Yeah. So you have to have eye contact both ways to do this. Alright? No sunglasses. No sunglasses if you are the looker. Okay? That is actually a professional guideline. Believe it or not. We'll talk about why. So, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Ready? All right. Anybody still counting?
No.
That was only like 15 seconds. Nobody even counted.
Why'd you look when you started laughing?
All right, so. All right, let's flip the roles now. Other person is the looker, other person is the lookie. Count of 3, and we'll all start together. Okay? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, right there. That's cool. Anybody still going? That's crazy. Nobody made it to 30 seconds.
They did.
32
That
seconds.
was
Okay. Most of us make it to 30 seconds. Most of us on the first round make it to 15 seconds. Why is that? Why were you laughing?
I made a face across my eyes
Why did you do that?
because I wanted to make them laugh. Like
Anybody
you
else?
asked the question, I answered.
Anybody else laugh or smile or giggle uncomfortably or uncomfortably start making small talk like, oh God, I think the person is doing that. I saw a lot of people smile and sort of half laugh or whatever and then cover their mouths. Why do you suppose that is? Because this is embarrassing, isn't it? It's a little bit awkward to have somebody focused on you for even 15 seconds. And I'm assuming most of us are not like in an intimate relationship here, right? We're not all married to each other and maybe we don't even know each other's last names and stuff like that, right? We're classmates, right? So this is a halfway appropriate model for what it's like when you are in front of a group of 5 people on a guided hike or 500 people for a bigger amphitheater style talk. Okay, that's famous for its evening programs at the campground amphitheater. They have a huge fire pit. They have a PowerPoint set up. Like they go pretty hard on these fireside talks. Man, it's like that looks like doing it in March. But more than 15 seconds felt like too much. Okay, so when it comes to a slightly different but maybe even more relevant setup, when it comes to me or any other professor making eye contact with you personally and individually during the class session, how many seconds is too many? be honest. Is anybody like 1 second too many? I prefer if my professor just didn't honestly make any eye contact. Like I'm not here for that. That's okay. Yeah, that's totally okay. Certainly less than 15 seconds per person, right? It's a little weird. So we want to learn from that as interpreters, because here's the thing about human risk perception. As you and I are constantly scanning our environment, and really what we're doing is the electrical organ of our brain is constantly bringing in a stream of about 115 megapixels of visual information 30 times a second, about 30 times a second. And a comparable amount of auditory sensory input, dozens of times per second. And we are exterocepting all of the skin sensation across our entire bodies at all times. And we're also interocepting, like, how are my guts feeling? Like, how am I doing with last night's beer shits? I got the bubble guts, whatever, right? We're constantly, continuously, multiple times per second, updating our sense of the world around us and inside of us. Say nothing of monitoring our own mental or emotional state as well. So the moment, 1/30th of 1 second, that your brain starts to notice the person who's talking with you is feeling like they're, or you're feeling like they're giving you a little bit too much eye contact, and whatever unspoken message that extra eye contact might mean, your brain can't not pay attention to that potentially scary, potentially dangerous, potentially life-threatening signal. Okay. That process again is called limbic hijack, where our lizard hindbrain takes over the reasoning forebrain and is like, I'm in danger. Okay. So, as an interpreter, we are managing posture, voice, water intake, and consciously managing our RBF expression and so forth, as well as enough, but not too much, eye contact. Because it's also weird, or off-putting, or strange, if I never make eye contact, especially in a group interpretation setting, versus in a classroom, right? If the professor never makes eye contact with you in the class, it's fine because maybe they gotta pay attention to the PowerPoint and driving the computer or the overhead or writing transparencies or passing out quizzes, whatever. Like there's a lot of other things that a professor needs to manage, but in interpretation, there's a lot fewer things that we need to manage. Okay. Now, every one of the things that we just talked about, that whole list, boots on up, is not innate. In fact, another one of Freeman Tilton's 6 principles or fundamental laws of interpretation is that all of this stuff is learned. This is all skill. It's not ability. So if you don't like talking in front of groups of people who are no strangers, that's fine. I don't like to either. Actually, a really strong introvert. Show of hands, how many of you guys and gals feel like you have to spend energy to interact with groups of people, friends and stuff like that? Like, you have less energy at the end of the night hanging out with folks at a bar or wherever, in the student clubs, in the classroom building. You have less energy at the end of the day after doing that. That's a good working definition for introvertism or ambivertism, if you're sort of equally in and out on energy spent or gained interacting. Show of hands, how many folks are honestly kind of charged up? Like, you get to campus, you get to hang out with your buddies, and you leave campus and you're like, man, I'm doing better than I was at 8:30 this morning when I was leaving for campus. So I was kind of just hating life, but now that I saw my buddies and maybe that one professor that's halfway okay, I'm even more charged up. Let's go party tonight. Maybe, kind of? Yeah, okay. Did you see how many more hands were raised as introverts? Yeah, I'm a strong introvert as well. After I teach class, I'll go into my office and I'll close the door and I'll turn off the light and I'm definitely not checking email because I know myself well enough to know that I love working with you guys. It is a privilege and an honor for me to be right here doing this right now with you. I'm dead serious about that. And at the same time, it takes a lot of energy for me to do this. To prepare these lessons, to know these inside and out so that I can teach them interactively and change them on the fly. To customize them to this class. It takes a lot of energy. That's okay. That's awesome. It should take a lot of energy. You guys are paying with your time and tuition dollars to get prepared professionally for this stuff. I should be working my ass off, and I do. Hopefully you feel like a lot of your other professors do as well. Well, all I'm saying is that one of our big 6 laws for the class, written originally by Freeman Tilden, who kind of wrote the gospel of environmental interpretation, kind of a big manual on how to do it. Said, hey, if you're not feeling like you're naturally good at this, okay, that's sane, that's normal. That's literally it. Not literally in terms of figuratively, but literally it. This is all acquired skill. Okay? And all acquired skill can be taught and practiced and honed, developed. So that's all right. We've got about 1 minute left. So let's end it right there because I held you a couple minutes late on Monday and we want to be fair about it. I'm around for questions. We'll see you next Monday. Thank you very much.